IK Multimedia's Modo Bass took the low-frequency world by storm after its initial release a short time ago. With its breakthrough physical modeling approach to creating bass sounds, there simply isn't a sample bass instrument that can match its realism, versatility, and tonal palette. It really is a producer's dream. In this video, we'll get deeper into the ins and outs of its powerful capabilities and see why it can certainly be dubbed the King of Bass. What follows is a walkthrough of each of the individual sections, their relative controls, and how they affect the tone. After which, we'll get into a direct comparison of modal synthesis power versus sampled bass instruments. Modo Bass puts together the most complete array of instruments covering all the basses, from vintage to modern. Each instrument has been carefully selected, played, tested, painstakingly measured, taken apart, measured again, put back together, and played again countless times. Each bass was chosen because of its unique tonal character and its nuances, and several instruments were acquired in order to get that model that really spoke and had a voice of its own. Here's a selection of the various basses in their stock configuration. This is one of the most important sections, which really taps into the power of the Modo Bass physical modeling engine and puts it under your control. Here you can select the pluck type and work on all the other details that define the performance and the realism of a bass player's touch. Stroke allows to select among the different stroke options. Touch controls the type of touch applied on the strings. Muting controls how much muting is applied to the strings. Let ring lets notes ring regardless of the note's duration. Fingering allows you to select among the various positions where the notes are fretted on the neck. Open string allows you to select the priority between open string or fretted note. Detach noise controls the level of the release noise of the note. Slide noise controls the level of the fret noise in between slides. Additionally, the plucking position can easily be moved around, going all the way from the bridge to the neck and vice versa. And of course, this can be under MIDI control for maximum real-time expression. Now try that with a sampled bass. This is the section where you can define everything about the strings. Starting with the number of strings, there are options for 4 strings in standard tuning, 4 strings in drop D tuning, or 5 strings, where you'll see the underlying fretboard change accordingly. Action defines the height of the strings from the fretboard. By choosing the 3 available options, you'll hear the difference this parameter, as in a real instrument, has on the tone. With increased fret sounds, the more the action is lowered. String type can be selected between round wound or flat wound, with their unique differences in tone and high frequency content. String gauge is also an available parameter that affects the depth and weight of the low end. Age defines the usage the strings have gone through. This has an effect on the high frequency and overall brilliance of the tone. The last parameter available in this section allows users to change the overall reference pitch for the instrument's tuning. This section puts all the possible tonal variations allowed by the pickups and electronics of the instruments at the user's disposal. On any given instrument type, you can mix and match pickups from, say, a 60s P-bass pickup with one from a Rickenbacker for tonal possibilities never heard before. And what if a pickup could be repositioned on the body of the instrument? That would make for an additional layer of tonal variations, right? Now, watch this. You can also add a piezo pickup, and even switch in an active electronic circuit with its own tone controls. Bass is oftentimes recorded direct, but there are some cases where you just need the gnarly bite of an amp and speaker cab, along with the twist of some effects pedals. In this case, we have the distinct advantage of all the power, tone, and gear derived from the rich legacy of Amplitube, from which 2 legendary amps and several effects pedals were selected specifically for Moto Bass. Just dial in the tone you want from the amp, clean or driven to taste, solid state or tube. The tone from the amp can be mixed with the direct input signal as they have independent level controls. Now you can add some effects in front of the amp for the ultimate in bass attitude. There are many virtual bass libraries available. They come in a variety of flavors and levels of audio quality. But regardless of how many of them there are to choose from, it's nearly impossible to cover every nuance of playing articulation or type of instrument, and even attempting this would require computer resources that are simply impractical. Modal synthesis takes an entirely different approach by generating the sound instead of playing it back. On top of the accomplishment of being able to produce incredibly lifelike sounding models of the original basses, the meticulous analysis performed on dozens of instruments to perfect Modo Bass captures all the subtle playing details. Playing articulations, details like note release, buzzes on frets, and finger and string noises happen just as they would in a real performance. In contrast to a recorded bass sample, which only offers the same repeated sound. This simple eighth note rock style pattern shows the difference between a regular sample bass from a well-known bass virtual instrument and the Modo Bass rendition. They both sound good, right? Now let's start adding in some of the nuances and performance variations that would be part of a real player's performance. Like changing the picking position, or partially and gradually muting the strings. Now, what if this bass part needed more attack? We could change from fingers to pick and have an instant result. All of this is accomplished without the need to change a sample bank and wait for it to load. There is no additional drive space needed, and most importantly, it can be done without interrupting the session's creative workflow. Modo Bass, the first physically modeled electric bass.